सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक और एयर स्ट्राइक के बाद अब ऑपरेशन सिंदूर आतंक के खिलाफ भारत की नीति है। टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की आड़ में पनप रहे आतंकी ठिकानों पर भारत सटीक और निर्णायक प्रहार करेगा।
Picture abhi baki hai. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of One Take, and this is the reason why I have begun this episode with these words. That is because the question which is being asked is that is it all going to be peaceful at the front? No, I don't know how long that this peace is going to last because picture abhi baki hai. But one thing which did not take long time to end was that ceasefire between the opposition and the BJP, and that is where the picture abhi baki hai.
On Saturday, my administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire, I think a permanent one, between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons.
अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर POK उस पर ही होगी।
The first big elections which is going to be coming up is that of Bihar by towards the end of this year. You know, whether we want it or not, the fact remains is that politics and even diplomacy or war is something which cannot be kept apart. And there's a reason why both the BJP and the opposition parties, particularly the Congress and the RJD in the context of Bihar, are looking at these developments from their own perspective. There are two key factors which can have an impact on Bihar elections, and I would say more on the narrative. So I'm going to be keeping the focus of this episode on this question is that will the ceasefire plus the caste census give reason to both the sides to hope for a swing in the electoral results? So let's start with the opposition parties first. Having burned their fingers over the Balakot airstrikes and the Pulwama issue, this time round the Congress party was unnaturally quiet for a very, very long time. Of course, there were voices within the party, but they were tried to put in line. But by and large, the top leadership, as long as Operation Sindoor was going on, firmly backed the government and also kept on praising the armed forces. But moments after the so-called ceasefire or the agreement between India and Pakistan was announced, this ceasefire ended. And this is what is going to be used by this party as far as the Bihar elections goes. Why was the ceasefire called suddenly? Were there losses on the Indian side? Why was it first announced by the American President Donald Trump? Was Trump the negotiator? But India's foreign policy line always has been that Kashmir is an internal issue and we are never going to allow this to be internationalized. So why did India decide to compromise? Why did it break its own foreign policy narrative which has been there with us ever since independence? And therefore, it was a very well thought out strategy. Suddenly you saw on the social media platforms popping up images of Indira Gandhi signing the treaty with Pakistan in 1971 after the end of the War of Liberation. The point which the Congress is making is that the Prime Minister Modi is in no match for Indira Gandhi. She was an iron lady, she called the shots and she taught a lesson to Pakistan. Whereas Prime Minister Modi, despite his macho politics, according to a Congress party, has not been able to do so. This is the narrative which the Congress is going to carry forward to the Bihar elections. Bihar also has a large number of people who are in the 4Gs. In fact, if you remember when the Agniveer scheme was started, there were two states which actually notched up a lot of membership on Agniveer, Haryana of course, but apart from that, Bihar as well. And this is the point which the Congress plus the RJD will push. that the Agniveer scheme, in any case, was a compromise, it was an eyewash. And when it came to the life of the martyrs and their families and the armed forces, this government has sold it out. How much of a traction will it get on the ground? Of course, we'll have to wait for the electoral results. But mind you, pictures of Indira Gandhi showing that this government has compromised, showing that Donald Trump was the one who called the shots, all of this is going to enter the campaign fray as far as the Bihar elections go. But add on to this is going to be the other issue of the caste census. The caste census is a very big narrative which is being pushed both by the BJP as well as by the Congress.
We have shown that we can pressure the BJP into doing the caste census.
Rahul Gandhi has taken credit saying that we pushed it through and we put pressure on the Modi government, so we run this government.
देखिए ये हम लोगों की 30 वर्ष पुरानी मांग रही है और ये हमारे पुरखों की जीत है, समाजवादियों की जीत है, लालू जी की जीत है.
Remember, Tejasvi Yadav came out with a post quoting an earlier soundbite of Lalu Prasad Yadav from inside the Lok Sabha and saying that he was the one who has always spoken about caste census. So let's talk about the Congress or the opposition strategy vis-a-vis Bihar. It's going to be caste census plus what they call the compromise ceasefire mediated by America, which is going to be their narrative. But if you think the BJP is going to be keeping quiet, definitely not. The BJP is weighing its options. Yes, they are aware of the fact that there is a certain amount of, I would say, little bit of disappointment, apprehension. There is also a murmur in the BJP quarters, and I'm talking about the BJP supporters and leaders as well, that why did it end so soon? They're a little worried that this narrative pushed forward by the opposition parties, that Trump called the shots, he mediated, and the ceasefire was forced upon us, is a narrative which, if not checked and counters, can spill out of control. But that press conference by the DGMOs was so measured, so precise, that it was the beginning of the counter coming in from the government. For now, they're letting the armed forces do the talking.
The Indian Navy maintains a credible capability to detect, identify and neutralize any aerial platforms that threaten our units at sea. और ज़रूरत पड़ने पर अपने अगले मिशन के लिए तैयार हैं और तत्पर भी हैं.
But yes, I have been told that a plan has already been made. It's going to be a part of the larger communication strategy, whether it is going to be ministers, selected ministers, whether it's going to be spokespersons who are going to be aggressive, NDA leaders, Vijay Yatras, all of this is going to push forward the point, not just with an eye on Bihar elections, but for the national perspective as well, that it was not a ceasefire mandated by America. It's the DGMO Pakistan which called us up. Pakistan was left with no option. That's the reason why in a very precise, measured manner, video footage, evidence is being provided to show how there were terror hideouts which were targeted, how every attack or drones which were being brought into the Indian space was countered and a karara jawab was given. That is where the BJP will try and ensure that this narrative pushed by the Congress plus RJD does not spoil their chances in Bihar elections. And that is where the role of the Prime Minister, Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, who of course will be the big star campaigners, will come to play. And of course, caste census, because caste is a big factor in Bihar elections and politics as well. So what is it that the BJP plans to do? The ceasefire called upon by Pakistan because they needed it, we did not. Because Operation Sindoor is still open. Mind you, those words are very significant. Operation Sindoor is not over. We are going to do this once again. It's going to be a state of war. So that war option is always kept looming on the skyline. Is also with an eye on the Bihar elections and their core vote bank. Plus the caste census we are talking about is something which we have always spoken about. That is a part of the larger census of India. Caste is also going to be asked for. We are not talking about dividing the society. We are talking for a Vikas Bharat. We also were talking about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. But before I end this show, I'm going to leave this with a question to you. Because we are talking about present times. There's a lot of narrative I'm seeing around me where people are saying that this government has not been able to handle, that America called the shots and we did it under American pressure. Do you think so? Do you think it is going to cloud the Bihar elections, which may be still a couple of months away, but the work has already begun? What is your point of view? Do give a response on the social media timeline, and thank you so much for watching once again.